Have you ever sat with someone, perhaps a partner, a close friend, or even yourself, and watched them fall into a long silence, struggling to find the words, only to finally utter a single sentence? I don't know what I'm feeling. These moments aren't born from laziness, nor are they a sign of being cold or heartless. They are symptoms of a deeper, often misunderstood psychological phenomenon that science calls alexithymia, a term from Greek that literally means no words for emotions, frequently referred to as emotional blindness. Alexithymia is not a mental illness. It is a personality trait that exists on a spectrum. People with high levels of alexithymia aren't empty inside. They still feel emotions, sometimes quite intensely, vividly, and overwhelmingly. But their brains struggle significantly to identify, categorize, and translate those feelings into clear language. They often can't tell the difference between feeling anxious and simply feeling hungry, between grief and exhaustion. The signal arrives, but without a label. Imagine your inner emotional world as a complex symphony, rich with color and depth. For most people, the brain has an interpreter that works smoothly, listening to the music and saying, "This is deep sadness from loss. This is rising anger from betrayal. This is anxiety mixed with joyful anticipation." But for someone with alexithymia, that interpreter is offline or heavily muffled. They still feel the heavy bass of the music, the racing heart, the tightening chest, the stinging eyes, the shortness of breath. But they cannot name the song. So why does this happen? How does someone lose the words for their own heart? Psychologists believe alexithymia stems from a mix of biological and environmental factors. But one of the biggest contributors is our childhood environment. Think about how we learn to speak. A child points at an apple, and the parent says, "Yes, that's an apple." The child learns the word. Emotional language works the exact same way. If a child cries because they dropped their toy, and a parent says, "I know you are feeling sad and frustrated right now," the child learns to map the internal feeling to the word sad. But what if a child grows up in an environment where emotions are ignored, dismissed, or actively punished? Sentences like, "Stop crying, it's not a big deal," or "Boys don't cry," or simply growing up in a home where there isn't room for the child's feelings. When emotions aren't mirrored or validated by caregivers, the brain never fully builds the vocabulary for them. The child learns to suppress the feeling, focusing only on the physical sensation or surviving the moment. Over time, the bridge between feeling and speaking is never fully constructed. Neurologically, fMRI studies reveal distinct differences. In people with alexithymia, we see reduced activity and sometimes smaller volume in the amygdala, which processes raw emotion, the insula, which recognizes body sensations and links them to feelings, and the anterior cingulate cortex, which handles emotional awareness. Think of the neural pathway between your emotional center and your language center as a road. For most people, it's a multi-lane highway. For someone with alexithymia, it's a narrow, unpaved dirt path. Information travels, but it's slow, bumpy, and exhausting. And the issue doesn't stop in the mind. When emotions aren't recognized and expressed, they don't disappear. They get trapped in the body, leading to what psychologists call somatic symptoms: unexplained migraines, chronic lower back pain, irritable bowel syndrome, persistent fatigue. Over time, this unresolved internal pressure can increase the risk of cardiovascular problems. The body becomes the only channel for unprocessed emotions to speak. It's a silent, persistent loop. Trapped emotions lead to physical pain. The pain causes stress, and the stress makes it even harder to find the words. In relationships, this is quietly devastating. When a partner asks, "Why won't you let me in?" the person with alexithymia is trying their absolute best. The words simply aren't there. But the human brain is adaptable. Alexithymia is not a fixed state. The dirt road can be paved. Here are science-backed approaches that help rebuild that bridge. Start with the body, not the mind. Don't force yourself to find the perfect word. Start with physical sensations. Where is the tension right now? Is my jaw clenched? Is my chest heavy? Connecting with the physical symptom is the first step. Use an emotion wheel. Psychologist Robert Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions breaks down broad feelings like bad into nuanced categories like rejected, guilty, or vulnerable. When you feel overwhelmed but wordless, point to a color or a word that feels close. You don't have to speak it yet. Journal facts, not feelings. Write about what happened, not what you felt. Today, my boss raised his voice. My hands got sweaty. I wanted to leave the room. Over time, consistent journaling helps the brain naturally connect events to physical responses, and eventually to words. Read fiction and watch films. Observing characters' experience and name their emotions is emotional language immersion. It works the same way as learning any second language. Understanding alexithymia is not about labeling someone. It's about recognizing that silence isn't always indifference. Sometimes it's the sound of someone carrying an entire symphony inside, still searching for the lyrics.